Okay, here's a video about a new toy I bought. This is a precision micro drill press and milling setup sold by MicroLux. And I'm going to open it up and put it together and see how it looks. Okay, here they are. There's a drill press, there's a vise that goes with the drill press, there's a XY milling table that goes with the drill press, and there's a spare drive belt for the drill press. 4 items I bought all together. Let's start with the big guy. So we've got a set of instructions, a limited warranty card, and the drill press itself. Oh, there's a little box with a Jacob's chuck. Okay, here's the drill press as it comes out of the box. There's a loose handle, the chuck and its key. Alright, so there's a couple of screw locks here. It's shipped with the motor all the way down. This shaft here, I don't know, it could be aluminum, but I think it's supposed to be steel. It's hard to tell from the finish. So you undo these couple of clamps and then raise it up like that. There's the little stop here, which can be presumably raised and lowered. Yeah. This is supposed to be made in Japan as opposed to China. There is a screw on the top that you can undo, and then the dust cover comes off, and there's the drive belt. This is a metal casting up here, and this is, I don't know what it is, cast iron or something. And there's a scale on it, and this part here is a work stop. It has a little bit of slop to it. I'm disappointed by the tolerances on that. Let's see. So if you loosen that up, then it can be slid forwards and backwards. This guy here looks like it should come up. I think that's just what it was sat on for shipping. So this can be slid forwards and backwards. It seems like it should have a little bit more than this, but I think it's primarily a stop, not a precision piece. And we got to thread the chuck on. And I think put the Allen wrench through here for leverage while tightening it. There we go. This seems to work pretty smoothly. And it looks like it goes down to a pretty small orifice there. And there's a small qualification here. This here is the headstock lock. This is a headstock fine tuning thing to reduce play between that and the to the column here. So this one is the one that you adjust to raise and lower it. And then this one, it should be just adjusted enough to reduce play. So this one is not for locking. So there's no automatic adjustment on here, but it's just a matter of turning it while sliding the belt to a smaller pulley like that, and then rolling it onto the bigger pulley. Or going the other direction. Coming up and rolling it onto the bigger one. And then the cover goes back on. This is a really heavy piece of plastic here. It doesn't feel cheap or anything. Seems like a big screw just to remove a dust cover. And then finally, there's only one position here to put the feed handle on into the spindle head here. So with the head up to the top of the column, the clearance here from table to bottom of the chuck is roughly 5.5 inches. And lowered down as far as it goes down to about 4.25 inches. So 1.25 inches vertical travel. And then of course this can be lowered so the chuck's all the way down to the bottom. Alright, I've got the smallest drill in my drill index, a number 60, and that does get chucked up. And I've got the head lowered down. Oops, too much, or it's right on the hairy edge. So let's turn this guy on. The power switch is over here. There doesn't seem to be any wobble in the bit up here at the chuck. There's a little bit at the bottom, but I think that's just because the bit itself is not entirely straight. Well, it drills. Okay, I've moved the pulley to the bottom. So that speeds it up dramatically, of course. There doesn't seem to be much in the way of plastic on this. This is all metal here. This is all metal. Everything up here is metal. Down here, this is all metal. This clear part is plastic. The knob is plastic. These parts are all metal with plastic bumpers on the shafts. This is all metal with a plastic knob. The electrical box is plastic, of course. The bed is some sort of casting that's been machined. Here's the speed table. You can have 2100 RPM, 4500 RPM, or 6200 RPM. And they give you recommendations on drill bit size for those speeds. Otherwise, it's pretty normal. The depth gauge, when drilling blind holes, holes that do not break through the bottom of the workpiece, the depth of the hole can be controlled by setting the depth gauge to the desired depth. That's this. For example, to drill a hole 19 millimeters deep or 3/4 of an inch deep, lower the feed handle until the bit touches the workpiece. Set the gauge to 19 millimeters and drill the hole until the dial reads 0, and that stops the travel. Drilling parallel holes. You can drill several holes in a line by using the parallel guide. The scale here shows the distance from the drill bit. Each small division is 1 millimeter. The parallel guide is also useful, helpful to brace the workpiece to keep it from spinning if the drill bit grabs. Be careful not to loosen the Allen screw too far, or the nut inside the slot will fall out. There's a little bit of care and maintenance here. Spindle side play can be minimized by adjusting the lock nut located on the left side of the motor behind the spindle towards the bottom of the motor unit. They don't show a picture of it. The left side of the motor unit, 1.5 inches behind the spindle. That's kind of like over here. And towards the bottom of the motor unit. Show me a picture, please. When moving the feed handle up and down, tighten the lock nut until the play is minimized, but not so tight as to restrict the free movement of the spindle. Okay. Belt tension may be adjusted by removing the top cover and then loosening the 2 nuts on either side of the motor pulley. Okay, so you can do that. And then they give you a parts breakdown assembly drawing. Item 57, that's the one I was wondering about. Bolt quill adjuster. I think that's what they're referring to as the spindle. Anyway, I don't think I should probably have to do that. And then parts list on the other side. There's a view of the bottom. If that nut does come off, it's not going into a hidden space. It can be put back on easily enough. And then there's a plastic cover on the bottom that I don't know what it does. Let's find out. Well, all that does is gives access to the bottom of the motor, but it's also going, this screw here goes through it, so I'm not going to take all that apart for no good reason. Okay, let's look at the next thing. There's a vise. No instructions. Shouldn't really need them for a vise. Oh, I should mention the part number on this thing. If it says, no, the tag is just a generic micro mark thing. It doesn't have a part number. MicroLux tools. Their website says this thing is made in Japan, as is the vise. And I have to admit the quality, well, there it says made in Japan. The quality seems pretty decent on these. Not professional grade, but better than most of the, Harbor Freight grade stuff I've seen, or even some things by better companies. So just a simple thing. You could turn this knob a long time to adjust it. This doesn't clamp down really. There's a couple of slots where you could put a screw through into something, but what, I don't know. They have a video on the website that just shows that you can clamp something in here and then put it up against here or against here, just to stabilize it so little parts aren't flopping around. I think that's all it's intended for. It's not a precision clamp down type of vise, but I thought it'd be pretty handy. Okay, then we have the, oh yeah, I guess I can tell you the part number for the drill press. That's a 81631 drill press. It's a couple $100. Considering it's not made in China, it's probably a pretty fair price. I thought so when I bought it. And the vise, well, I don't know. D217 looks like the part number. I don't remember anymore. Okay. So there's some contents. Okay, what do we got here? Just a little XY table. Very basic. The ends are plastic. This is plastic. The structural part of it is aluminum, it looks like, as is this. And the knobs are metal, and the handles, the crank handles, are plastic. Made in Japan. So there, it's cranked back. And forward, it looks like you can go from about 1 3/4 of movement front to rear, and then the side probably moves further than that from the looks of it. And it's adjustable here for proper amount of play, as it is here for the front to rear travel. It works pretty well, but it's hard to operate. There's just enough stiffness in the handles and the screw mechanisms, so that it really needs to be clamped down. Okay, here's the glorious parts bag. There's 2 clamp plates. And 1, 2, 3, 4, come on, 5, 6, 7, 8 big square nuts. 3 of them have, it's kind of weird. Oh yeah, 3 of them have larger holes and the other ones have smaller holes. And then there are 2 large nuts and 2 large screws, just threaded rod really. And then 1, 2, 3, oops, these are different lengths. Okay, 6 longer screws and 4 shorter screws. 2 smaller square nuts, 2 smaller hex nuts, 2 larger washers, and 6 smaller washers, and a Allen key. So they're saying that if you want to put the XY table on this particular model of drill press, you've got to first remove this bar, and that exposes 2 holes here and then the slots there. So we should use the 4 short screws, 4 small washers, 2 small square nuts, and 2 small hex nuts. So I start by putting those screws through the 4 holes on the XY base, and then I think I have to get 2 of these square nuts going. Nope, they just fall straight through. Has to be done from the bottom. So you kind of okay, there's the XY table bolted down, which definitely makes it easier to operate with the mass of the drill press. And the drill press can be bolted down with a couple of screws from the rear. This seems pretty good. It seems to not have any noticeable slop or backlash. So then the remaining parts are, let's see, I think even these square bolts here, these square nuts are kind of useless. So I'll put those in my miscellaneous bag of parts. This XY table can be used on a couple different models, so some of the hardware is different. So if you need to clamp something down to this, then you can use these guys by slipping in, you know, a couple of hex nuts and then screwing the threaded rod into it until it's tight. I suppose you can use some of the hardware to bolt the vise to the table here too. Maybe that's what some of it's for. Yeah. That would be an awkward way to mount the vise. I think it's better to put screws through the slots and into here. But to hold down loose pieces, you know, you can do things like this. I can also put other pieces under here and clamp them down, but yeah, that's just one of the ways you can secure things. This is very slapdash the way I just did this, but at least it has those basic tools. They don't really seem to address very much on here. They tell you how to make the adjustments and how to set the gibs. They're preset at the factory. If the XY table develops side play after much use, loosen the lock nuts and adjust the set screws with the hex key provided. So they don't really give you any other instruction on using this. For the cost, I think this will come in handy, especially for drilling circuit boards. My larger drill press, which is still a pretty small one over there, it's a little wobbly when it comes to really fine drill bits. It gets a bit of vibration in it. And the travels are larger and everything. I think this will be a little nicer to use for things like that. Also, I have a pain in the butt every time I have to put a smaller drill bit into that because the chuck doesn't really work with it. The chuck on here is intended for small bits. So again, I think that'll be a useful addition to my shop. I can't give any other evaluations on this other than it seems to be a decent quality, better than Chinese quality tool, mostly made out of metal. And yeah,